folks, it's Shannon. Welcome on in. I'm going to make some tea, and I think we're going to talk about some bookish stuff today. If that sounds good to you, go get a warm beverage, and we'll meet back here in a second. So, I've been putting off talking about books because I don't know how to get started. Maybe the best thing to do is just put the camera on and talk for a little bit and see what happens. I've been reading for a long time. When I was a kid, reading was an escape for me and one of the few places I could feel safe, which is kind of intense, but still is true. When my parents got divorced, my mom had to stay at the library kind of after school most days until she could pick us up. And so I got to, I got to kind of interact with books much more than some other things in my life, and it was really exciting. It felt like a safe place and a fun place to explore. Um, I was a pretty bookish kid. Lord of the Rings was one of my favorites. Yeah, I would say I was like in a book most of the time, reading history, or not history, history? No, reading fantasy of some sort or another. Um, yeah, so, um, and then when I was going through training and college and school, I, well, not really school. It was my medical training that I really stopped reading quite so much because I was just taking in such vast quantities of information in my day-to-day time that reading was not relaxing anymore. Um, so yeah, I kind of fell off for a while, which I look back at and I'm sad about, but I understand why it happened. So um, the exciting thing is I've been trying to kind of get back into reading. At first, I was just reading for fun. Not that I'm not reading for fun now, but I'm being a little bit more structured about it in a very Shannon way. Um, so, you guys might know that I have a reading journal that I started kind of beginning of last year as a creativity journal, but has really morphed into a straight up reading journal. Um, so I figured we could look through that a little bit and we can talk about some of the ways I've been approaching getting back into reading. Um, and then, yeah, drop your questions down in the comment section. I would love to know what about books you guys want to talk about. I bet there are like bookish quizzes that you can go through where it's like this or that, and you can say what kind of reader you are. If you guys know of any, link them down below because I'm curious. I feel like that could be fun. But I'm the kind of reader that reads usually multiple books at a time. So even when I wasn't reading very many, I usually had like a couple that were in various states of being done. I think the sweet spot for me is like 4 to 6 books. Six gets a little intense, so four is probably where I aim for most of the time. Um, I usually have something fiction, something nonfiction, something witchy, and then something else. Um, yeah, so that's one thing to know about me as a reader is I usually have multiple things going at once so that I can kind of bounce around and do what I want. Um, I have started getting into doing TBRs a little bit more, where I'm like, okay, these are the things that I want to read in the next whatever amount of time. Um, some of that is because I've gotten into book challenges as I've been hanging around the interwebs a little bit longer. Um, and yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other like big overarching things about me as a reader. Um, I'm a big nerd, but you know that already. I am not scared of big books. I do not seek them out exclusively anymore like I used to. I used to think that like bigger was actually better. Um, Now I realize that it kind of depends on the writer. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think if I have other like philosophy of reading things that I could talk about. But yeah, I read a mixture of books. I read physical, I read ebooks, I read audiobooks. Um, Audiobooks are real. If you have a problem with that, you can deal Um, what else do I want to say? Um, I think the most important thing is reading books that bring you joy or that stretch your mind in some way. So those are kind of some of my values around reading are read what you want, um, and read things that broaden your perspective. I think those are both really good things to do. So maybe let's flip around and we can start going through my journal, and that'll kind of prompt me to think about things to talk about in the bookish world, about like how things have been going. Um, and I feel like we might talk about kind of like last year and then this year, the first quarter, because that's what I've decided to do is kind of break down my reading journal by quarter. Um, and not quarter, actually, it's more like seasonally. So I had a winter season, now we're in spring season. So lining it up with my witchery and stuff like that too has been fun for me. Okay, so you've seen my creativity journal before. Creativity Now reading journal. Um, I started this back in, oh, I don't even know, probably 2024, maybe 2023. Um, and my idea at the time was that I would put kind of all of the creative things and all of the media that I consume in here in different ways. Um, and at first, I had some things that were about gaming, but it quickly kind of turned into a scrap journal. And I actually ended up using it a lot to talk about what kind of things I wanted to do on um, my channel, as well as, you know, some witchy stuff, because that ends up in most of my journals, honestly. um, but it was kind of a place to think on paper, which I really enjoyed as it was a big B5. Um, and then this happened. So in spring 2024, I found out about Orillium, or the Magical Readathon, which is hosted by G at Book Roast. It's going on right now. If you're interested, I'll link her introduction video for this year. Um, feel free to ask me about it, and I can walk you through into this crazy world of fun. But anyway, it was a reading challenge, based on kind of a magical world where you go to school and you study to become whatever kind of calling you choose. So at first, I chose Mind Mender and was doing um, things to try and uh, meet the prompts that were involved with that. And you can see that it took up a lot of thought. um, and as the days went on, I got more and more into reading stuff related to Orillium. And so eventually I said, you know what? And I think it was more in the second part of the year. So this was for the autumn equinox. Orillium happens in spring equinox and autumn equinox. So I did this before the autumn equinox when I was really crystallizing the character that I play as for the game. Um, and then I started playing around with kind of more typical reading journal stuff, and got into that a little bit more. So I think we'll fast forward here to the rebrand. So this I want to talk about at another time. This is my kind of one goal for the year, and it's going pretty well, I would say, though I'm behind on tracking as per usual. So I should do that. But the important thing is that instead of being kind of a random creativity journal, I decided to make this a stories journal. So mostly focused on reading, but also I was trying to incorporate writing in here. Um, and I've found that I think it's going to be better to split those two apart, but more on that later. So, I can't remember if I've shown you guys any of this before or not. I don't know. Anyway, this is a vision board for my life, but also for myself as a reader and a writer, I think. Um, I love it. Most of these images I've collected over probably a decade, so um, has has deep meaning for me. Anyway, kind of a future log about some of the events that come up during the year. Um, and then I want to have some reading playlists and some retreat ideas. These are my current like writing works in progress. And then this is a little cart of ratings, which I think is super cute. So each of these is like a book with the title on the spine. And then they're sitting in a little cart. And the top shelf is 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star. I have a bunch of little extra books that I can put in, which actually I need to add some to this. But so this is like where I am currently this year. And I can move them up and down, which is nice when I'm thinking about kind of my immediate response to a book, but then also like sometimes my ratings change with a little bit of time. This is prompts for like book reviews, recommendation list as seen on. So this is for like people I know. This is for people on like the internet's a DNF graveyard. These are supposed to be tombstones. I don't know that they look like tombstones, but anyway, there's another book I need to add to this actually, which is The Power of Different. I think I finally accepted the fact that I'm going to stop reading that. I'm hopeful to get back around to the Library of Mount Char. It was just too much for me at the time. I think I'm going to try and read it as an ebook and see if that helps. And then I call this my nipping plot bunny hutch, and I need to add some stuff in here, but this is where I like put brand new ideas that are starting to percolate that haven't made it to the like works in progress stage yet. Here's my TBR. I don't think I've updated it in a little bit. It's a lot. I broke it out by genre. Yeah, I have it in multiple other places too. So like I use Storygraph and I use Fable as book reading apps at the moment. Um, so, but this is kind of like the snapshot from when I set up the startup pages for the story journal. I want this to be like a bucket list of things that I want to do related to reading and writing. Um, but I'm not sure what to put on it. So if you have ideas, drop them below. I'm curious. Um, and then we get into like the yearly stuff for 2024. So these were big parts of my reading journey in 2024 that kind of got me back into reading. The magical readathon, like I said, happened in April and September of 2024. And then the BBBC is hosted by Jashi Corinne and is an awesome book club. It stands for Bujo Buddies Book Club, and it's run by Jess, Rachel, and Monica. Um, and it's a lot of fun, and it got me back into like chatting about books and talking about books with other people. And then this was the event calendar for my writing game, the For the Words, that I use all the time, and kind of shows some of when some of the big events were happening last year. So my big goal for this in 2024 was to keep a creativity journal, which I did. These were the books that I read in 2024. I read 24 of them somehow. This was supposed to be like my desk, and it has all the works in progress that I was working on. These were all the books that we read for the BBBC. I think I only didn't read 2 of them. Yes, because I finished this one later. So I didn't read Quicksilver or The Spell Shop. I might get back to The Spell Shop. I don't know if I'm going to do Quicksilver because of some reviews I've seen online. But read all these other books and very much enjoyed them. Oh, looks like I need to put in my rating for the very Secret Society of Irregular Witches also. And I think I got to maybe half of the meetings, which was fun. This is more about my game and writing. These are some of the badges that you can earn during the year from the special events. This was Orillium, the Magical Readathon. So these are the books that I read in the spring, and these are the books that I read in the autumn. These were just some of the things that I did during the year in my creativity journal that I was proud of. And then these were my top 3 books for the year. So my favorite book last year was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I can't say her name. Erin Morgenstern. I don't know why that was so difficult. Anyway, it's really good. I would recommend it. I think almost everybody would like it, but it is a bigger, chunkier book. So if you're not into fantasy, like it's probably not for you. My second favorite book was Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This is more speculative fiction, sci-fi kind of thing, but also still heavily fantasy. It's amazing. I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to spoil it. So, especially if you like snark, do the thing. And then Beneath the Sugar Sky was my third favorite. This is one of the subsequent books in the Wayward Children series that starts with Every Heart a Doorway. So I love Shannon McGuire's work. This one was particularly good, I thought. And so I figured this out by using a favorite matrix instead of doing the book bracket thing. I think Jashi Corinne has a way of talking about it, but basically each month you pick a favorite for each month, and then you put them head to head and see how many times you picked each of them, and based on that you pick which book is the best, second best, third best, and then on and on and on. Yeah. These were all the books that I read in 2024. I was playing around with covers. It's fun. They're colorful and good memories of what you've read. And then this was where I started using Fable for the first time. So Fable is an app that is kind of social media-y about books, and they do a Wrapped like Spotify. I can't talk today, I swear. Anyway, so it like tells you about your year in reading, and like hot take, I hated Big Magic. I loved Butcher and Blackbird, which is very hyped up this year. And then this one was too niche. So this was my OM book that I learned how to read OM with. And only 24 people read that last year. So still a nerd. So with that, most of this I set up after the fact. You might be able to tell. But I started moving into my plan for 2025. And so you'll see similar elements on my like first page. My plans were to do the Magical Readathon and Orillium, and to be active in the BBVC, as well as continuing in my game for the words. So this is the calendar for kind of like what's going to go down when. And then these were the goals that I set. Get my 8-year wings in For the Words. I've been playing that writing game for 8 years. I'm a little bit obsessive about it, so if you want to hear more about it, let me know. I want to read 25 books. I want to be active in BBBC and the Year of Goober, which we'll get into, and then I wanted to be active in Adventure in Aldea, which is the year-long challenge in Orillium, and the autumn and spring equinoxes. So here is my in-process bookshelfie. I'm doing great. I'm going to toot my own horn. I have read 12 books so far this year and have many other ones started. These were my stats in the game that I play for writing. So I'm going to put an updated version of like my best gear and my levels and stuff up here once I'm done with the year. This is a page for the Bujo book, Bujo Buddies book club. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but basically here I'm just putting down what the prompt is each month, what the 2 books that we vote between is, and then the book that's chosen for the book club for the month. This is the Year of Goober challenge. I love this page. So basically, the premise is you read a book a month for the whole year, and you choose between two prompts, and it based on that, it chooses which flower you put into this bouquet that Ghosty Goober is assembling. Um, yeah, it's been really good. I've been really enjoying the books I've been reading this year, and so far I've done a book based with new beginnings. I've done a book where you continue a series, a random pick, and then my favorite genre. So we'll keep up with that. This is going to be similarly my accomplishments in 2025. This is going to be that favorite matrix where I decide my top 3 books, and I guess my top 12 books actually. This is the year in Aldea, or Adventures in Aldea. So this is the map of um, the. Oh man, this goes deep. There is lore, but there are 4 continents, and then Orillium is in the center. And so the premise for this year is it's like a board game, and we start in Orillium and then work our way out. So I am taking this path. I started here. I've read to here and here, and next I'm going to here. So my next prompt is find a winter cloak, which means that I have to find a book by an author with a W in the name. So I have a planned book. I just haven't gotten to it yet for April, but never fear. I'm still not sure what I want to do with these pages. I think I might put like spring equinox and autumn equinox here. And then we get into kind of seasonally. So I don't read quite enough books for me to justify doing like monthly spreads, but I do think I read enough to do seasonal spreads. So, like I said, I started in winter of 2025. And by winter, I mean like basically I started around the equinox and went through March to again around the equinox. And these were all the books that I read. So, like I said, I've finished 12. I haven't finished all of these yet. Slash, we'll be quitting one of them. I'm not sure what to put down here. Maybe some stats and stuff. I haven't figured it out yet. And then we get into ratings. So I'm still learning how to use the stamp. It's not perfect. But I have most of the details about the books that I've read here, and then just a couple sentences reviewing them and what I liked about them or didn't like about them. As you can tell, it's been a pretty good year. There's a lot of 4s and 5s. And some not so good, but we'll just keep going. That's not relevant at the moment. These were some planning pages, and here is spring. Oh, I didn't talk about what this is. This is my character in the writing game. So this is Annie Shea all dressed up for spring. And so far, these are the books I've started in spring. I'm switching how I tracked. Let's see if I can show you this. So here, I was trying to start like where I started and where I ended each book, and it honestly just turned into a bit of a mess, as well as how many words I wrote that day. So this time, I'm going to put how many words I wrote in a day again, but I'm also just checking if I read or not, because I keep track of the like dates that I read for the book reviews, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, more to come. Once I finish in this book, I think I'm going to move to that reading book that everybody uses for Marcher and Olive, which is more A5 sized. I think that'll be okay because I think I've gotten myself into more of a pattern. And then I also have broken out my writing stuff into here a little bit more. So this is where I'm like keeping notes and like, yeah, like actually writing if I'm not writing online. So I think that's what I've got for you today. Like I said, if you've got ideas that I can add or things that you think I would be interested in, let me know down in the comments. Let me know kind of what you've been reading and what you're into, and if you've done any reading challenges like the Magical Readathon and the Year of Goober. And I'll link the videos for the various things below as well. Anyway, I hope you have an excellent day. Enjoy your warm beverage, and I will see you again soon.